Luke is the world's greatest assassin who was betrayed and isekai'd to another world. However, everything changes when he learns he must assassinate a god to gain his freedom. But he starts cracking everyone else instead. Before his life in the new world, Luke was on his final mission, taking out mafia members like Agent 47. Even though he was the best assassin in the world, he was tired of a life of violence, and after his mission was accomplished, Luke reported back to his organization for the final time so he could start fresh and live a life of pina coladas and bed-breaking yogas. However, on his flight to his new life, the plane was suddenly hijacked. Luke discovered that the pilots were dead and tried to take control of the plane to save everyone. But when he looked outside, he saw a fighter jet flying right beside him, ready to shoot him down, and he realized then that the organization he was loyal to had betrayed him and wanted him dead. The next thing he knew, he was on the brink of the afterlife, and he felt his blood boiling, questioning why, even after committing his whole life as an assassin, climbing the ranks, and being the absolute best at what he did, he ended up betrayed by the same people he murdered for. Suddenly, a hand reaches out, and when he wakes up, he finds himself in a throne room of a goddess. She feels pity to see the world's finest assassin ending up getting assassinated, so she offers him a chance to reincarnate in a new world with all of his memories intact. However, Luke knows instantly that there's a catch and asks her who she wants him to assassinate. She praises him for his sharp mind and tells him that in this new world full of swords and magic, she wants him to assassinate the hero. Before she continues, Luke asks to pause and let him express his feelings, saying that for his whole life, he only lived as an emotionless tool, and after feeling hurt by being betrayed, he now wants to live his own life as an actual living being. The goddess assures him that it's fine as long as his mission is completed, and with her finger on his head, gives him all the information about the new world from top to bottom. Then, the goddess allows him to pick special skills and attributes, so he has a better chance of defeating the hero. After that, she summons the portal and informs him that he will be reborn as the noble son of a family of assassins, before sending him to his new life. The next thing Luke sees is himself exiting his mama's beef pouch, and is greeted by his father, Vioon, who wants Luke to be his heir. The mother, Esri, is worried that she will lose Luke like how she lost her first child, Ruff, but Vioon assures her that he will train Luke to be strong, and that the kingdom will need him. After several years in his family, Luke starts getting used to his new life, and while he's not capable of using magic yet, he trains his body by hunting rabbits, ensuring that his muscles and instincts are developed. Back home, he learns how to use his resources by cooking the rabbit he hunts to ensure that he gets all the nutrients he needs every single meal, showcasing Gordon Ramsay-level cooking like he's in Food Wars. Both his parents compliment him for his outstanding growth, and Vioon fully believes that his son will surpass him. During the meal, the parents are in awe of his cooking of cream rabbit stew, and joyfully suggest that they serve the dish at this year's Harvest Festival as their family specialty. Seeing all of this warm interaction, Luke thinks to himself that he never had this kind of love in his previous life. After they finish eating, Luke goes to their family dungeon and does what he usually does with his father, an examination to see his growth.
Come on, man!
So his father can determine whether Luke is ready for the next step of becoming the heir to the family. Under his father's kindness and smiles is a man that the kingdom elected to be their main medical expert, but also their assassins who carry out the kingdom's orders, effectively making them the kingdom's master of life and death, which Luke sees as the perfect family for him to be reborn to, considering his mission to assassinate the hero. After the examination, the father determines that Luke is ready to take the next step, and that is to inherit the family's mystic eyes, capable of strengthening the eyesight and allowing the person to see other people's mana, which is considered the perfect weapon for an assassin. Vioon says that he will perform a magical procedure to give it to Luke, and asks if he's scared. Luke assures his father that he's ready, and he trusts his father's ability to do the procedure safely. A few days after the operation, Luke sits in the garden with his mother, who, seeing that her son is wearing a bandage on his eyes, takes this opportunity to pamper him with her melons. Just then, his father pops up to remove the bandages, and when Luke runs towards him, the parents are amazed to find out that Luke is able to recover that quickly. After the bandages are removed, Luke realizes that his eyes have surpassed anything he'd known before. He could see distant objects clearly without aid, and perceive mana flowing through people at a glance. Then, his father tells him that he manages to get Luke what he has been asking for, a magic tutor, news that Luke is excited to hear. On the day of their meeting, his mother forces Luke to wear a dress, as she always imagined him to be borderline James Charles, and Luke has no choice but to obey. Outside, the magic instructor arrives, and Luke is surprised to find out that she's similar to him in age. The magic tutor introduces herself as Dia from the Viconis family, who are close to Luke's family and are indebted to them. With full of pride, she showcases her magical ability to them by exploding a small nuke as proof that she's more than a worthy teacher for the heir of the assassin family. Right after, Dia brings Luke to the garden to begin the training she has planned, and explains that she will be teaching everything he needs to know about magic in 2 weeks. To start that journey, she wants to measure the extent of his magical potential, so she hands him a far stone, an artifact meant to store mana, and instructs him to pour as much of his own mana into it as he can. Luke follows her order, and at first, nothing seems to be happening, but then mana begins filling up the stone and starts leaking heavily. Seeing this, Dia starts panicking, calling it impossible for someone to have this much mana, not knowing that Luke has rapid recovery as a skill. With more mana pouring into the stone, the more unstable the stone becomes, and the moment it cracks, Dia screams for him to throw it away. When Luke throws it to the sky, the rock explodes with magical energy, rivaling Goku's spirit bomb, and sends shockwaves that vibrate everything around them. Cien and Izri rush outside immediately to check on the commotion, and when they ask Dia what happened, Dia is scared that she will be blamed for what just happened. However, when they find out that their son is the cause of the massive explosion, they praise him as a prodigy and credit it to Dia's teaching, surprising Dia with how chill they are. That night, while Luke is trying to get to sleep, Dia comes into his room and forcefully sleeps right next to him, claiming that she will now be his big sister. Luke is confused by her statement just now, and Dia tells him that his father must be hiding it, which confuses him even more, but he chooses to simply accept it and go to sleep. The next day, Dia resumes the training by determining his attribute using a far stone, and she's amazed to discover that, unlike most people, Luke is capable of using 4 attributes, which is as rare as Yamcha getting a win. Then, she teaches him to convert his mana into an attribute by touching his skin and giving him guidance, which is a first for Luke. She assures him that she will be gentle for his first time, and that it will be memorable, starting with his earth attribute. Luke can feel his mana start taking color and being given purpose, and she again asks him to infuse a far stone with mana. As he channels his power into it, Luke suddenly begins to perceive letters forming within his mind. When he mentions this phenomenon, Dia explains that those letters represent a spell. In their world, she says, when a person draws mana from their attribute, a spell is bestowed upon them as a divine revelation from God, and she adds that the more frequently one casts such spells, the more new ones are granted. To activate them, one need only recite the incantation mentally, and Luke attempts to follow her instruction, but quickly realizes he cannot actually read the characters appearing before him. After he admits this, Dia demonstrates by casting a spell herself, creating a copper out of nothing. After watching closely, Luke repeats the incantation and tries to do the same. However, his pronunciation is flawed, and instead of refined copper, he produces a copper that looks like the small remain of a Taco Bell aftermath. Recognizing the issue, he asks Dia to teach him the correct pronunciation, and she happily agrees to guide him. That night, Luke continues studying and is about to head to bed when Dia joins him again. She expresses how much in love she is with his cooking, and asks him how he's so good at everything despite being younger than her. Instead of answering, he deflects and promises to make her tastier food, which she's happy to hear. Several days later, Luke proves how much he has improved by presenting Dia with a properly formed copper stone identical in quality to hers. She is delighted and praises him, but Luke believes he can push further. He proposes that she transcribe a spell so he can attempt casting from a piece of paper. And while Dia says that has never been done before, she's intrigued by this. So she agrees and writes one down that revolves around iron. When Luke reads and casts it successfully, she is left in stunned admiration, wondering why no mage has ever thought to record spells this way. As he studies the written incantations has on paper, Luke notices repeating structures among them and suddenly conceives a new possibility that they can try. He asks Dia to transcribe every spell she knows, explaining that if they all share a common formula, altering certain parts of it might be the key to creating entirely new spells. After she finishes transcribing them, Luke analyzes the collection and then has the idea on how to create a spell that makes gold. He asks her to try casting it herself, but the moment she attempts it, her brain goes gooey, and she collapses, making them fear they have constructed the spell incorrectly. However, when Luke casts the same spell, it functions perfectly, to Dia's amazement. From what he has just seen, Luke deduces that only people with spell weaver like him can create fresh new spells on their own, but he finds a loophole by rewriting the incantation himself on paper like he created it. And when Dia casts the same spell from his writing, it works flawlessly, as gold forms in her hands. Overjoyed, she declares that if all of the new spells she created is written down by Luke, then they can work, which excites her, and they give each other a fist bump at this new discovery. Some days later, the two of them go somewhere far from everyone, so they can experiment with their newly created magic without attracting attention. One of their joint inventions creates the American magic in the form of a rifle, which uses fire magic to shoot out the bullets. They name the spell Fire, and while Dia is excited by this new weapon, Luke is unsatisfied, knowing that he will need a much bigger firepower to take down the hero. He modifies the spell further, and his experiment creates a literal cannon, which shocks Dia, who never seen such a thing. When he fires it at a small island, it obliterates the whole thing, which is what Epstein Island should experience. However, after one shot, the cannon is cracked, and Luke realizes that he will need stronger materials next time. Dia expresses how satisfying it must feel to shoot such a weapon, and Luke suggests that she should create one of her own, but she informs him that she doesn't have his level of mana and is more than happy with her small rifle. That night, Dia cuddles up to Luke, saying that this is the last night she will stay there, and wishes she could stay like this forever. Luke gets up from bed and, using magic, creates a special knife that is made from the strongest materials he could manage to produce, claiming that this blade is the result of their training together. She hands it to her and says that without her, he could never learn magic. Dia shoots back that without him, she could have never created her own spells, which makes her love magic more than ever before. She then hands him her necklace, created from a far stone, and asks him to promise to come see her when she really wants to see him. Luke promises that he will, and they seal off the promise with a pinky swear. The next day, Luke's parents thank Dia for tutoring Luke, but she assures them that Luke's growth is mostly himself. After Dia leaves, Cien says that it's time for Luke to learn the ways of their family. He takes Luke to a prison housing condemned criminals, and reminds him that their family's purpose is to sustain life and eliminate diseases from the kingdom. Luke asks his father why he didn't just raise Luke to be emotionless and create the perfect assassin. And Cien tells his son that they are people, not tools, and they are people who assassinate their targets with the purpose of helping the kingdom, and not blindly slaughtering other people like a soldier. The father presents Luke with a girl convicted of theft, murder, and arson. Cien instructs his son to execute her by whatever method he deems appropriate to train him, and the girl desperately begs for mercy, pleading for her life, saying that she is innocent, but Luke remains unmoved. He calmly draws his blade and slices off her hand, explaining that the blood loss will cause her to lose consciousness and die without suffering. In that moment, the girl's mask falls, and she shows her true color as a monster when she throws insults at him, saying that his existence should be rotting with the demons in hell, but Luke simply throws his knife to silence her for good. Years later, Luke is accompanying his parents to the market to see how much the area his family leads is thriving. His father expresses how satisfied he is with the growth in the area's economy, even crediting it to the cream stew recipe Luke created. Meanwhile, his mother is trying to pamper Luke like he still needs to drink her creamy nectar, while he refuses to be treated like that. In secret, Luca has his own mission, and using his mana-detecting eyes, he scans the crowd for anyone possessing mana. The individual he detects turns out to be far too old to be of any use, so he continues searching in hopes of finding another candidate who can be his assistant to help him assassinate the hero. However, throughout the entire kingdom, only nobles and high-end people have mana, which is difficult for Luke to recruit to join his mission. Several days later, he heads into the forest to hunt for food to prepare for winter, and deep inside it, a poor girl is by herself. Weak and starving after her own family threw her out due to the lack of food they could spare her. In that moment, a pack of wolves approach her, ready to turn her into minced meat, and she fully accepts her fate to be food to the hungry wolves. However, Luke shows up and shoots the wolf, lunging at her straight through the head, then drops down and hands her his belongings so he can fight these beasts as part of his training. Using magic, he forms protective gauntlets around his arms and a blade to go against these starving wolves. The wolves attempt to overwhelm him, but one by one, he defeats them efficiently, as though they were nothing more than target practice rather than monsters. When the final wolf collapses at his feet, Luke turns to the emaciated, golden-haired girl and asks why she is alone so deep in the forest. Weakly, she explains that her family cast her out to die because they had too many mouths to feed. A passing stranger had told her that the region she is now in is wealthy, so she traveled there hoping someone might take her in. After hearing her sob story, Luke sets up camp and cooks porridge, Once it is ready, he fills a bowl and warns her that if she eats too quickly, she will not receive seconds. She thanks him gratefully and begins eating, while he steps away to drain the blood from the wolves he has hung. When he looks back, her bowl is already empty, so he serves her another portion, and when he looks at her closely, he feels pity for the situation that she had to endure. As the lord of her homeland is a greedy tyrant who crushes his already impoverished people with brutal taxes. To ease her anxiety, Luke reveals that he is the son of this region's lord, which immediately brightens her expression. She then shares that God appeared to her in a dream and foretold she would experience a fatal encounter, and she believes meeting Luke is that destined moment. Hearing that surprises Luke, and he concludes that the goddess must have guided her to him and asks whether she would like to come live with him. He promises that if she does, she will never feel cold or hungry ever again, before saying that he needs her. Hearing that she's needed, those words mean everything to her, and she eagerly agrees. However, he warns that he's not a good person, as he is a man who has taken people's lives before, and will continue to take lives in the future as his mission calls him to do so. Despite hearing that, the girl believes that he's a good person, and expresses how she's willing to do anything for him, as long as she can come with him. She then introduces herself as Tarte, and using his magical eyes, Luke saw from the start that she has mana, and is now fully convinced that the goddess sent her here to aid him on his ultimate mission. Meanwhile, the goddess continues sending elite people into that world, and gives them the same mission she gave Luke, eliminating the hero. But unlike Luke, they end up lazy bums who grew beer bellies and gooned too much. Back with Luke, it has been 2 years since he saved Tarte, and she has now grown into the type of girl who gets invited to a casting couch. As Luke's servant, she does her job of waking him up, and even cleaning his face when he eats, earning praises from Luke's parents, who are happy that Luke got himself such a bombshell of a baddie to fulfill his every need. After breakfast, Luke takes Tarte to the training room, and just like how his father used to examine him, Luke now examines Tarte to see whether she's ready for her assassin training. His father told him when he took Tarte in that Luke will have full responsibility of Tarte, and if she ever betrays them, Luke has to be the one who pushes the dagger into her throat. Luke accepted these terms and has trained her relentlessly into a formidable assassin, but until now, Tarte is still struggling to use the weapon of assassins, a knife, and doubting herself whenever she tries to surprise attack Luke. However, seeing from her hard work and attitude, Luke believes that with special training, Tarte can be a formidable weapon for him. But he's still confused about how to make her favorite weapon, a spear, stealth-worthy. That night, Luke finds Tarte in the training room, diligently trying to get better at using a knife. When she sees Luke, she apologizes for using the training room without his permission. But Luke tells her that it's pointless at this rate, seeing how bad she is with a knife. Tarte starts begging him to not leave her, saying that she doesn't have anywhere to go and is willing to do anything for him. Luke calms her down and creates her a special spear that is able to be folded, perfect for stealth. With that, Tarte showcases her spear-wielding ability, proving that with the right weapon, she's a formidable weapon. She finds Luke clapping for her and giving his approval, which Tarte is happy about. The next morning, Luke awakens to find Tarte lying in his bed and asks why she is there. She explains she came to deliver herbal tea, found him asleep, and lay beside him to watch him sleep, before drifting off to Snoozetown herself. She then thanks him for the spear and vows that with it, she will become someone he can rely upon. Luke internally notes that everything is proceeding exactly according to plan. However, when she starts bumping her balloons on his head, he starts thinking that he may have made a mistake, picking this freaky wench. Back with the goddess, she once guided the world's best samurai to the same mission Luke is facing, but after years of progress, the dude got cooked to a crisp in the end. Meanwhile, Luke and Tarte visit the market together to check everyone there, and as they're walking, the people all present Luke with numerous gifts, thanking him for the amazing inventions he made, like modern fertilizers and a vibrating pickle for their wives. Hours later, they're on their way home, and Tarte points out how often Luke gets this warmth treatment. Luke tells her that it's necessary for a lord to do this when they manage a whole region, and adds that kindness is necessary to win his people's hearts, which is something he never experienced in his past life. He hands her a tomato and asks her if she would have preferred to be born in his family. Tarte says that if that were to happen, she wouldn't have got the chance to be his servant. Luke assures her that in every other life, he would have found her anyway. Hearing that, Tarte asks if Luke also needed to win her heart, and Luke says that he does, considering that he needs her. That night, back in his room, Luke carefully stores away the far stones he has filled with mana. After analyzing the one Dia once gave him, he discovered how to manufacture the stones himself, and since then, He has been charging them with mana to create bombs and stockpiling them in preparation for the day he must confront the hero. Just as he finishes putting them away, Tarte knocks on his door. When she enters, she informs him that his father is requesting his presence. Luke immediately goes down to the training room to meet Cian, and the second he steps in, Cian asks for a report on Tarte's progress. He first talks about how Tarte is progressing brilliantly, but Cian stops him and asks for the other progress. Luke then reports to his father that he is completely sure that Tarte is not a spy, as while Cian allowed Luke to take Tarte in and train her, he has remained suspicious, convinced she might have been planted to steal the family's techniques. Luke explains that ever since rescuing her, he has closely monitored her behavior and speech patterns for any signs of deception, but has found none. Hearing that, Cian talks about how it's a 1,000,000-to-1 miracle that a girl with mana is randomly in the woods at the perfect time for Luke to find her. But he dismisses it as a purely divine coincidence. Then, Cian reveals the true reason he summoned him, which is to outline Luke's next stage of training, and this phase consists of two components, which are a test and a practical exercise. He declares that if Luke succeeds in both, Cian will formally recognize him as a full member of the family and begin assigning him real assassination work. Confident in his abilities, Luke accepts. Cian then announces that the test will be a duel against him, and that winning is not necessary, as he merely wishes to assess Luke's combat capability. That night, in the woods, the duel between assassins starts, and Luke immediately uses every advantage at his disposal. When he first spots Cian, arrows fly toward him, but Luke deflects them with his knives. He charges his father and narrowly avoids being cut, but when he tries to counterattack, Cian smashes his elbow into Luke's ankle and breaks it. Using his uninjured leg, Luke kicks Cian away and escapes long enough to heal himself with magic. By the time he finishes mending the injury, Cian has vanished back into the darkness, and Luke begins forming a plan. Suddenly, the bushes beside him rustle, prompting him to move, only to realize it is a trap. He avoids it, but the disturbance serves merely as a decoy, as Cian appears an instant later from his true position and slashes at him. Luke's reflexes save him, yet the near miss leaves him exposed, and Cian presses the attack relentlessly. Luke shifts fully into defense, parrying and evading until he finds a narrow opening to strike. The moment he does, Cian retreats once more into shadow, granting Luke a brief respite to breathe and think. He recognizes that Cian has been predicting his movements and decides to attempt the same. He tries to sense Cian's presence, but the older assassin conceals himself flawlessly, and the only warning Luke receives is the sudden approach of two blades from opposite directions. He deflects both, but Cian drops from above a heartbeat later, and Luke cannot react in time and takes a stab to the shoulder. Even so, Luke has already slipped his own knife beneath Cian's throat, giving him the win. Hours later, Cian helps Luke bind his wounds. While doing so, he admits he never expected to lose. Luke counters that Cian could easily have won, since he never used magic. Cian disagrees and even criticizes Luke's refusal to do so, but Luke explains that employing magic would have defeated the purpose of the test. Cian smiles, praising him for understanding its true intent, and declares that all Luke lacks now is experience. After that, the father and son duo go on missions to assassinate degenerate nobles and creeps, while Luke slowly learns from his father's guidance. One day, they are going back home after tending to a patient, and Cian explains that the final stage of Luke's training is that he must learn how to take on a different identity, and for this test, it's a merchant. Cian explains that years ago, he arranged for a fictitious child to be registered in the Balor Trading Company's records, someone supposedly born around the same time as Luke. That child, Elig Balor, was entered into the family registry because the Balor patriarch owed Cian a favor. Cian instructs Luke that his mission is to live as Elig Balor for the next 2 years, learn commerce, and build his own network under that identity. A few days later, a farewell gathering is held to mark Luke's departure, attended by members of the family. Cian praises Luke's accomplishments, and nearly everyone agrees he is ready for the final trial, except one dude named Orna. He declares he will never acknowledge Luke as the future head of the family after how his position as the next in line was taken from him the second Luke was born. To resolve the dispute, Cian announces that the two will duel, with the victor recognized as heir. The instant the words leave his mouth, Orna finds a blade at his throat, after Luke slipped behind him unnoticed. Orna protests that this is cheating, so Cian orders Luke to put the knife away and fight barehanded. Within seconds, Luke showcases the difference in power as he pins Orna to the ground, while the crowd erupts in cheers. Later, Luke visits Orna to check on him, and Orna admits he is bitter about losing to someone younger. Luke tells him not to dwell on it, remarking that if anyone deserves resentment for losing to him, it should be Cien. Orna is stunned, having refused to believe the rumors that Cien lost to his own son. Luke assures him it is true and promises that when he inherits leadership of the family, he will treat Orna fairly as long as Orna agrees to serve under him. He explains that Orna is a capable knight and that he needs strong men like him. Seeing no downside, Orna accepts, and in return, Luke presents him with a sword forged from the same rare material as the knife he once gave Dia. The following day, Luke and Tarte leave the region, setting out for the city of Meltu, where he will begin his new life under the name Balor. In that same city, years ago, there was a group of girls who lived on the streets, and they survived by offering new tourists their services to guide them around town. The girls' leader, the main reason they're thriving, Maha, is a quick-thinking girl who has high dreams of one day having a house of her own so she and the girls can live together. However, one day, a sudden rain stops their business, forcing the girls to take cover under their make-do shelter and count the day's little earnings. In that moment, vicious goons show up and try to capture them. Maha instantly lashes out with magic, knocking one pursuer flat and creating an opening for her friends to flee. The girls scatter and run with everything they have, yet the men still manage to catch Maha and two others. They are thrown into a wagon and hauled to a compound outside of the city. There, the goons' leader, Torin, greets them with a greasy smile and announces that this place will be their new home. He says that as long as they obey like good dogs, they will have no trouble. One of the girls, Noin, protests that they never asked to live in an orphanage, but Lloyd, the douche who dragged them there, responds by hitting her. The dude warns them that further defiance will bring worse punishment than a simple blow. The girls are then put into a cramped house where the rest of their companions have already been confined. Despite everything, relief spreads among them at seeing that no one else has been physically harmed. The oldest girl, Ifa, explains that she learned that Torin collects abandoned children because the regional lord's wife gives rewards to whoever takes in orphans, and that Creep intends to pocket that charity money for himself. Just then, Lloyd returns carrying a sack of food, and he tosses it onto the floor and informs them it must last a week. After he leaves, they divide the pitiful rations and prepare what little food they can. Sitting around the table, they stare down at their meals in silence, fearing the uncertainty in their heads. Eventually, someone forces a smile and reminds the others that at least they are still together. In the days that follow, they are treated worse than slaves, brutalized whenever they make a mistake. All the while they have to do chores. Torin scolds Lloyd for striking them, not out of compassion, but because he plans on pimping them and doesn't want the hardware harmed. One day, Torin takes a Viscount on a tour of the place, and after seeing the merchandise, the Viscount pays Torin some money and tells him which one he wants to play with. That night, Lloyd summons Ifa and Maha outside. He splashes water at Ifa and orders Maha to clean her thoroughly and dress her in one of the finer outfits the girls have been forced to sew. Once Ifa is groomed and adorned, Lloyd takes her away. Hours later, the girls are asleep when Ifa returns with her soul broken and her body defiled. When Maha finds her, Ifa is in the barn crying, begging to be left alone, but Maha stays nearby in silence, letting her cry. From then on, Ifa never showed emotions anymore, and every time she is sent out as merchandise, more parts of her soul are taken away. When the others protest to Lloyd, he silences them, and not long after that, all the girls there, apart from Maha, experience the same horror in the hands of these degenerates. One night, Noin comes back from an assignment and hides in the barn, sobbing just as Ifa once did. After her tears run dry, desperation takes over, and she starts slashing her own face using a sickle. Maha wrestles the blade away, but the damage is already done. Through tears, Noin insists that no man will want her now that she is ruined. Years later, Torin and Lloyd begin discussing Maha's prospects, and Maha overhears how they are planning to play with her first, before selling her off to a rich noble. Horror crashes over her, and she runs to the barn, memories of her friends' broken expressions flooding her mind. There, she lifts a sickle, wondering if disfiguring herself like Noin did might spare her fate, but she didn't do it in the end, as a calm voice calls out to her from behind. There, she sees Luke, acting under his alias Elig, who rizzes her up, saying that tears doesn't suit her pretty face. Later, Torin assembles all the girls in the workshop and introduces the newcomer, explaining that he wishes to adopt one of them. Luke walks directly to Maha, asks what she considers herself to be, and then states plainly that she is the one he wants to take into his household. Torin attempts to dissuade him, but Luke offers far more money than Torin expected, and Torin accepts on the condition that Luke can have Maha in 3 days, claiming the girl needs preparation, Maha instantly understands the horror they want to do to her in those 3 days, and desperately begs Luke to take her immediately, but Torn silences her with a glare. Luke notices and warns Torn that Maha now belongs to his family and must not be harmed. That night, Maha is bathed and dressed for her first time facing the horror. As the carriage rolls toward the client who purchased her, Torn leans close and tells her that once she returns, he will have his turn before Luke arrives. Moving on pure instinct, Maha throws herself from the moving carriage and runs. Lloyd, also a mana user, quickly overtakes her. She begs for freedom, but he smirks and says he will grant it only if she lets him have the first taste. As his hands roam over her body, Luke appears and beats him down. Torn arrives moments later and tries to forbid Luke from taking her, but Luke coldly states that Torn already broke his promise. Lloyd staggers up again, so Torn orders him to attack both of them, even suggesting they will dump Luke's body where no one can find him. However, Luke easily manhandles Lloyd and holds a knife to Torn's throat. In that same moment, far away, Tarte impersonates Maha and goes to the same Viscount from before. While he tears at her clothing, guards burst in and arrest him for trafficking, to his utter shock. When dawn breaks the next morning, the girls gather around Nguyen and see that her once ruined face has been completely healed. And at last, Maha leaves that place behind, now joining Luke as part of his family. Months later, Luke fully does his role as Elig as part of the Balor family, and using his family's teachings, Luke heals his brother from illness. The father thanks Luke for it and hands Luke the completed adoption documents, confirming that Maha is now registered as a legitimate member of the Balor household. Some days later, the father visits again, this time carrying architectural plans for one of the trading company's unused store. He explains that the building had previously operated as a liquor shop, but poor performance forced it to close. Hoping Luke might succeed where others failed, he offers Luke full control over repurposing the property. Luke accepts without hesitation, promising to devise a business model far more reliable than the store's previous venture. That evening, after returning home, Luke shares dinner with Tarte and Maha. While they are still seated, he informs them about Balor's proposal and reveals that he has already decided on the type of establishment he intends to open. He outlines his concept of a specialty shop built around a highly desirable product aimed primarily at women, whose constant social interaction would allow information to circulate quickly. He believes that through this, the shop could double as a discrete intelligence hub to support his assassination work. He proposes selling cosmetics, and Maha points out that cosmetics is already common in Meltu, making it a difficult item to sell. However, Luke simply smiles and assures her he has something unique enough to dominate demand. Sometime later, Luke invites his fake mother and father to a private demonstration of the new product. Balor arrives eager and curious, while his wife remains openly cold toward Luke, still convinced he is her husband's illegitimate child with some cheap hoe and fully hates him. Luke then unveils a moisturizer, which is something this world never had, and because of that, Luke is confident it will create immediate interest. He explains its function and asks the wife to test it personally. Though skeptical at first, she applies it and quickly notices the difference in her skin. What starts as hatred turns into amazement when she sees that she now looks like a budget Kardashian. Balor then asks whether she could introduce the cream to her social circle, and she eagerly agrees, even declaring she would publicly acknowledge Luke as her son if it guaranteed her continued access to the product. Encouraged, Balor announces he will dedicate company resources to large-scale production and urges Luke to expand the workforce. However, Luke tells them to be careful, as hiring too many laborers too quickly would increase the risk of leaks of the formula he used to create the moisturizer. Balor asks how long a secure production system would require, and Luke says that it will take a month. However, he says that a key component of the cream relies on an item that his assassin family has, and while it would cost a lot, Balor agrees to give Luke his support. Then, Luke heads back home with Tarte, and along the way, he explains that while the partnership will enrich his own family, he has no intention of teaching the Balor company how to manufacture the secret ingredient itself, as being the only side to have the recipe means that they can never be thrown away. 6 months later, Luke's boutique, named Orna, opens its doors and has customers swarming in, all wanting to look like Megan Fox in her prime. Maha and several of her rescued companions manage daily operations with remarkable efficiency, transforming the once abandoned girls into the boutique staff. Meanwhile, Luke and Tarte observe the crowds, and Luke admits he did not expect such rapid expansion. Tarte notes that the store's reputation has already reached other nations, with princesses from other nations wanting to get their hands on Luke's moisturizer. Tarte praises him for allowing Maha to employ her former companions, deeming it as his kindness, but Luke corrects her, insisting the hiring decision was entirely Maha's initiative. Even so, Tarte maintains that only someone compassionate would have approved it. Then, they talk about their market rivals and how they have tried to infiltrate Balor workshops, bribing employees to reveal the cream's formula, but despite all of that, no one has uncovered the crucial ingredient. That night, Luke detects a presence trespassing onto his estate. Rather than chopping the intruder's head off himself, he allows Tarte and Maha to respond. The two capture the intruder and secure him in the cellar. When Luke later inspects their work, he finds the man restrained and ready for interrogation. He commends the girls for applying their training and quietly observes as they extract information from him. Days later, Luke leaves them in charge while he travels to visit Dia, continuing a monthly tradition since she finished training him. When he arrives, Dia greets him, and they spend the day reviewing her latest spell transcriptions, sharing sweets and tea, and catching up on each other's progress. As evening falls, Luke departs, promising to return again soon. When he reaches home, Tarte and Maha join him in his room and remain there overnight. The next morning, when Luke wakes up, the girls greet him, but they smell something creamy. Luke quickly tries to cover himself up, realizing that he just had himself a spicy dream, but both girls offer to give him a good old throat exercise every morning to help him out, even offering to take turns, leaving Luke embarrassed. Months later, two of Maha's friends are walking home with gifts they bought for Luke when suddenly, a pair of thugs jump from the shadows and attempt to rob them. The girls freeze in fear as the men close in, but before their crusty hands get too close, Maha bursts onto the scene and serves a two-piece fried chicken combo, rescuing her friends before they lose so much as a coin. Her dramatic arrival leaves the shaken girls both relieved and awed, and the story of her intervention quickly spreads among their circle. The next morning, while his shop is full of customers, Luke watches from afar. Just then, Tarte returns from her mission and presents a small collection of uniform buttons she took from defeated enemies as proof of her victories, after Luke sent her out to battles as a way to train her. Luke studies them with mild disapproval and dryly remarks that collecting trophies from corpses is the sort of behavior associated with unstable minds. He then adds, in a softer tone, that reports of her feats have already reached Meltu, as people have begun calling her the lightning-quick battle maiden. Tarte flushes with embarrassment at the title and begs him never to address her that way. Later, with the shop being the biggest success since the release of Macintosh, Luke entrusts Maha with overseeing both its finances and getting information that can only be gained from the high-level noblewoman who likes to gossip. Being the mastermind behind the store, Luke's reputation grows alongside the business, bringing invitations to gatherings hosted by big names on the level of kings and queens, which Luke uses as a place to gather even more information. Later that same day, Luke meets privately with Maha to review preparations for his departure from the city. She reports that all arrangements are in place for her to manage Orna independently in his absence, as the period C grants Luke to live under the Balor identity is nearly finished, and Luke intends to resume his life within his family's regions. Maha promises that with her at the wheel, she will elevate the brand until baddies from different anime can get the product. She reveals plans to expand into additional properties across the city, and explains that one location once belonged to a dominant businessman. The moment Luke sees the documents, Luke recognizes why she picked this one, as during his earlier investigation into Maha's past, he learns that the building in question is the very first shop her father ever opened. Her parents are respected merchants whose flourishing company is seized after their murder by a business partner who betrayed them. Rather than seek revenge, the young Maha flees her birthplace in terror, fearing she will be targeted as well. Luke understands that reclaiming the site is more than a business venture, but it is a quiet attempt to restore what is stolen from her family. He tells her evenly that he has no objection to her personal motives influencing their enterprise, as long as business is her main priority. Relieved, Maha promises she will justify his trust with results. Just then, someone knocks on their door, and enter the girls Luke rescued, all now the staff of the store. They shyly present Luke with a bundle of herbal tea as a farewell gift, thanking him for changing the course of their lives and voicing their sadness at his leaving. Luke assures them he will not forget them and asks that they continue supporting Maha and Orna during his absence. Days after, Maha assists Luke with final arrangements for the journey back to his home, and she is surprised to see his actual hair color as he's preparing to leave his life as a Balor behind. When Tarte enters wearing her familiar battle attire, Maha praises how striking she looks. Soon after, the three step outside to the waiting carriage. Before Luke and Tarte board, they pause for a last exchange. Luke reminds Maha that Orna is now in her hands, and he expects her to keep growing the business until it rivals Elon Musk's Tesla. Tarte apologizes softly for leaving her behind after the bond they form, but Maha insists that she is glad Luke will not travel alone, even if she envies Tarte's place beside him. She then hands Luke a small handcrafted doll she makes so he will remember her, and expresses how she once doubted him, recalling her father's teaching that trust must follow suspicion. She says that she knows that Luke originally took her in because her mana makes her useful for his missions. Yet despite that grim beginning, she is grateful he chooses to keep her. Luke accepts her gift for him, but the weight of her confession lingers between them as he departs. On the way back home to his family, the carriage suddenly stops when a pack of wolf-type monsters emerge. Tarte immediately instructs the driver to shelter inside and requests permission to engage alone. Luke grants it, and she leaps from the carriage, spear in hand, and brutalizes the beasts. By the time the driver dares peek out again, the beast is already cooked. Luke observes her movements closely, noting how much sharper and faster she becomes over 2 years of constant battle. After praising her clean execution, he scans the surrounding wilderness and reflects that monster activity pressing into human lands is a sign that the prophesied hero's appearance cannot be far off. Sometime later, the carriage crosses into Luke's family region, and before returning to the estate, Luke and Tarte stop among the villages. The locals welcome their young master home with smiles and offer food in thanks for the prosperity his trade with the Balor company brings them. When the carriage finally reaches the mansion, Esri rushes out and embraces Luke deeply, expressing how much she misses him and forbidding him from leaving again. Once she releases him, Esri turns warmly to Tarte, thanking her for remaining loyal to her stubborn son. Luke then asks after his father, and Esri informs him that Cien is in his study room. Luke goes there, and inside, Cien looks up from his work, acknowledges his return, and congratulates him on completing his final period of training. He declares that Luke has matured into a true adult, and that he is proud. Turning serious, Cien explains that sending him to live as a merchant serves more than operational goals, as it allows Luke to experience a life entirely different from their family's path. In Cien's view, Luke possesses the aptitude to succeed in both worlds, revealing that Balor himself visited. Convinced Luke will excel as a merchant, and urged Cien that Luke should abandon assassination altogether. Cien says he will not oppose such a choice if Luke desires it, but Luke assures him that while he enjoys his time as Elig Balor, his identity as an assassin will never be replaced. Cien presses once more for certainty, and Luke answers without hesitation that living as Elig Balor the merchant was fun, but remaining in that role would bar him from marrying Dia, the woman she loves, because she is noble and Elig is not. Cien laughs at that reasoning, yet praises Luke's discernment and affirms he is free to continue the assassin way. With the matter settled, Cien assigns Luke his first official mission. He hands over the dossier and outlines the situation of a corrupt nobleman who is secretly selling military intelligence to neighboring states in exchange for narcotics. The betrayal threatens national security, and the man's death is sanctioned. Cien informs Luke he can execute the operation by whatever method he deems appropriate. Afterward, Luke returns to his quarters and outlines the details of the assignment to Tarte. He explains that their target is Count Asbavencor, and that before taking action, he intends to verify personally whether the noble truly deserves a knife in his throat. He composes a short message in cipher, arranging access into the Count's residence, then dispatches it via carrier pigeons to Maha. The following morning, Esri pops up in Luke's room, and when Luke asks the old hag why she's there, she reveals that the girls told her about his morning creamy mess, and she now wants to see it. Luke asks if she really wants to see his son's creamy pickle, and the freaky mother says that she does. However, before she gets to do it, Tarte pops in to get Luke up for breakfast, and when he's in the middle of changing, he pushes his mother out, who is curious to see his almighty glizzy. Then, Esri presents him with portraits of 3 young noblewomen, urging him to choose the one he prefers. When he demands an explanation, she cheerfully declares that whichever girl he selects will become his future wife. Luke rejects the idea, stating he has no intention of entering an arranged marriage. His mother is annoyed at this and complains about how she wants to have grandchildren in her arms before it's too late. Tarte endures this freaky mother's yapping in silence, but Luke notices her struggle and gives her permission to speak her mind. Relieved, Tarte bows politely to Esri and says that the main lady of the house is acting like a total pygmy who likes to sway her melons on OnlyFans. She adds that it is too early for Luke to be thinking about expanding a domain, but Esri counters that if he can shoot his gun, then he should crack endlessly and spread his seed. Suddenly, Ezri gets an idea and proposes that Tarte herself become Luke's baby mama, reasoning that the girl possesses mana and carries none of the political baggage common among noble brides. Hearing that, Tarte goes full tomato, but doesn't reject the proposal. Luke intervenes before the conversation can spiral further, telling his mother to stop speaking nonsense, but Ezri insists she is entirely serious and accuses him of being cruel and unreasonable toward her. She starts sobbing and tries to guilt-trip Luke, but the crocodile tears have zero effect on a Chad like Luke, and he makes a mental note that he has to be cold and stern whenever he deals with this mother of his. That night, Luke and Tarte slip away from the estate to begin reconnaissance in Vencor's domain, as Luke wants to learn every possible detail about the Count and the land under his authority. Thanks to their extraordinary speed, they reach the region by morning. As they move through the settlements, they pass numerous injured soldiers. Luke observes that such casualties are the consequence of men forced into unwinnable battles, and defeats are inevitable because their strategies are sold to the enemy by the very nobles sworn to lead them. Seeking quieter ground, the pair turns down a side road and encounters a girl selling jars of jam. She asks them to buy some, and Tarte selects one and passes it to Luke. When he tastes it, he quickly destroys the rest of the batch, and the poor girl tries desperately to salvage what she can just as three thugs approach them, asking why they destroyed the jams. With ease, Luke and Tarte defeat them, and Tarte wonders whether these men are part of the drug distribution network. Luke replies that they are merely the goons, and that their ringleader is who they have to target. He then turns back to the girl and asks quietly whether she knows what is mixed into the jam she sells, but the traumatized girl simply says that her mother needs it. Luke and Tarte accompany her to her home, and they find her drug-addicted mother erupt in fury when the girl admits she has lost the jars. As the woman seems on the verge of striking her child, Luke steps in and forces her down, pinning her to the floor. The girl tries to intervene, but Tarte restrains her gently and asks her to watch. With his magic, Luke renders her unconscious, and explains to Tarte that he has altered the woman's physiology so her body no longer requires the substance. However, the psychological dependency remains, something no technique of his can erase. Having seen enough, they return home just as a shipment of Orna cosmetics is being unloaded. Hidden among the goods is a coded letter from Maha that confirms that Count Vencor indeed operates a narcotics ring, and with him being backed by corrupted nobles, Luke decides it's a job for the assassins. A few days later, Luke and Maha travel together to the Count's residence, and Maha takes this chance to coddle up with Luke, saying that she misses him. Maha then asks if his relationship with Tarte has progressed, and when he asks what she means, she asks him whether he has done hot yoga with her. She talks about how Tarte wouldn't mind playing second fiddle behind Dia and be a mistress, and how Maha feels the same way. However, Maha tells Luke that since she now controls Orna Cosmetics, she's going to make it that Luke can never dispose her and have no choice but to fall for her. Then, they reach Count Vencor's residence with the excuse of presenting Orna's newest product to his wife, and once the wife tries it, she eagerly asks why they have chosen her household. Luke answers smoothly that they wish to associate their brand with her husband's influence, and the wife agrees. At that moment, Vencor himself enters, and Luke introduces himself as Elig Balor and starts glazing the Count for his greatness, making sure he won't suspect a thing. Vencor thanks them for delighting his wife, remarking that she adores cosmetics almost as much as she adores him. He then excuses himself to attend to business, bidding her farewell. Luke merely watches the exchange, absorbing every detail. Some days later, Luke attends a social gathering at the Vencor estate, and as usual, admirers crowd around him. But the moment the Count's wife appears displaying her new moisturizer, the ladies swarm her like cavemen seeing fire for the first time. Vencor approaches Luke with wine in hand and apologizes lightly for capitalizing on his popularity to elevate the party's prestige. Luke assures him he takes no offense and changes the topic toward trading, but Vencor dismisses the idea, claiming his own company is too small compared to a juggernaut like the Balor company. Throughout the night, he mingles, exchanges toasts with Maha, and never once loses sight of his target. Late that same night, after the festivities end, Luke and Tarte slip back into the Vencor region to execute the mission. From the Count's wife, Luke has learned of Vencor's nightly habit of drinking alone on the terrace before retiring. From a far distance, Luke activates his mystic eyes and aims his rival at the Count, thinking that unlike in his past life, he's doing this not as a tool, but a person who made a decision for himself. With his heart full of conviction, Luke pulls the trigger, and the Count falls without ever knowing death has come. However, the wife finds him, and seeing her in tears, Luke feels himself overwhelmed with emotions, something his old self never felt, needing Tarte to calm him down. Weeks later, Luke and Tarte are on a raft after going on an intensive training on an uninhabited island, and meet up with Maha, who welcomes them back but warns them that she has some bad news. On the carriage ride home, she starts with some good news, and that is that she has located the divine treasure Luke asks her to investigate. Not knowing what that is, Tarte asks, and Luke explains that such relics are tools that possess godly abilities that human hands can never replicate. He adds that they date back to ancient eras and, according to legend, cannot be destroyed by any means. As Luke scans the thorough dossier Maha hands him, she elaborates that the artifact in question is the legendary magic spear Gatebolg, and its current owner is a warrior named Assassinating, also known by the title Karn's Hound. Maha has already opened negotiations with him to purchase the weapon, and rumors circulate that Satana himself might be the prophesied hero, though nothing is confirmed. Luke asks if she can get it, and she believes that an agreement is within reach and that she will secure the spear for Luke. She then shifts to the darker news and informs them that a civil war has erupted within the kingdom of Swigel, and that Dia's kingdom has joined the royalist army. Luke and Tarte are stunned, but Maha has not yet finished, and adds that the rebel faction possesses a formidable champion who is cleaning out the battlefield like a fat man in a buffet, and that monster is none other than Assassinating. The next day, Luke appears unannounced at Dia's residence, and she greets him with playful teasing, accusing him of missing her sweet cheeks. Inviting him inside, she pours tea and casually asks whether he has brought chocolates, as he often does. When he says no, she simply requests that he bring some on his next visit. Luke is confused by her chill attitude, and asks her directly about the war and whether it's going badly. Dia laughs it off, insisting that her region remains comparatively peaceful despite what's happening in the Swigel kingdom. Still uneasy, Luke presses further, asking whether her family has truly joined the fighting. Dia tells him not to worry, reminding him that her lineage consists of overpowered sorcerers on par with Gojo. However, he refuses to back down and reminds her how the rebellious nobles have insulted the royal family and have launched an uprising. Dia praises him jokingly for knowing so much about a foreign realm, and says that if the Swigel kingdom possesses aristocratic assassins like him, no rebellion would have survived. Luke offers to arrange safe passage for her entire family out of the country, using his status as Elig Balor, but that suggestion annoys Dia, and she replies sharply that she wants no such assistance and will never abandon her people in their hour of need. She declares that there is no use worrying over matters beyond her control and insists that he accompany her go out. He tries to stop her, arguing it is no time for leisure, but she brushes him off and makes him choose a dress for her outing. With her hair color changed, they enjoy their walk and wander through town until Luke asks what she wishes to eat for lunch. As he begins listing dishes from nearby restaurants, his attention snaps to a passing merchant leading a horse. Dia asks what is wrong, and Luke says that he possesses a sixth sense for warriors and can detect their presence instinctively, and he can sense that the man is a veteran soldier. He notices that the entire town is filled with trained fighters, and Dia explains that the war brought many people with military backgrounds into the area to reinforce defenses. As they continue their little date, Dia spots a shop offering a shooting game and eagerly drags Luke inside. She asks him to win her a teddy bear, but forbids him from using magic, calling that unfair. Luke realizes that even without magic, his skill will make victory feel dishonest, so he instead coaches Dia. Her first shot misses, so he tells her to relax and try again. While the second shot also misses, the third attempt hits, and she wins the prize herself, which she celebrates. Afterward, she announces she wants lasagna, so they go to a restaurant known for it. While they eat, Dia remarks that she prefers Luke's cooking above all others, so he promises to prepare a meal for her the next time she visits his region. For an instant, her bright smile fades into something sad, and Luke asks her what's wrong. She insists nothing is wrong, and only makes him promise again that he will cook for her. On their walk back, they encounter a boy who is lost, and Luke gets the little jet to talk by speaking through the teddy bear like a puppet. The child explains he has been separated from his mother, so Dia uses her magic to trace the woman's voice, and together they reunite them. Afterward, Dia leads Luke to a secluded hot spring, and Luke hesitates when he realizes they are alone in the bath and she's planning something spicy. But Dia refuses to release him and pulls him into the water. They spend time playing in the water where Dia almost drowned before drifting together as she speaks about her beloved hometown and how she will never abandon it. She says she is waiting for her father's return from the battlefield and therefore cannot leave with Luke, even for her safety. He agrees to respect her wishes, but insists he will still prepare an escape route if she changes her mind. In the water, the mood turns intimate, and they share a sweet kiss to cap off their date. Afterward, Luke is about to go home and promises that he will come back to visit. However, Dia tells him that she will be busy for a while, so Luke promises that he will make her his own lasagna just for her, and will wait for her. As Luke walks away, she keeps her smile strong, but the second he's gone, her smile disappears, and she orders her men to stop pretending. In that moment, all the villagers reveal themselves to be soldiers, as Dia had been lying to Luke all this time about her town being peaceful, not wanting him to worry, and wanting for their final meeting to be beautiful. Sometime later, Luke lies in a field gazing at the far necklace Dia once gives him when Tarte comes sprinting toward him with bad news. She reports that a problem has arisen, and together, they rush back home where they find parents tending an injured messenger. Cien informs Luke that the man has gave them a job, and Cien wants Luke to take it. The mission Cien reveals is to assassinate the daughter of Count Vioon, and she is none other than Dia Vioon herself, Luke's first love, shocking Luke. Cien tells Luke that he doesn't have to take the job if he doesn't want to, and reveal the truth about what happened. He says that after Dia's kingdom suffered defeat in its war against the rebels, Dia's father accepted total responsibility for the failure. He surrendered the majority of his lands and wealth in atonement, but the rebels wanted something more, and had their creepy eyes on Dia herself. Hoping to prevent further bloodshed and pointless conflict, her father agreed that Dia would enter an arranged marriage with a suitor of their choosing, and Dia was fully aware of this decision. However, her father's loyal soldiers rejected that idea, and they attacked the royal envoy sent to collect her, and withdrew with the Vioon family into the fortress, sealing the castle gates behind them. Upon receiving word of this uprising, the royal court declared Count Vioon the instigator of a second civil war and ordered death to his whole land. Luke quickly deduces that the crown's ultimate goal is to end the conflict by eliminating Dia entirely. He demands to know who has commissioned their services, and Cien reveals that the client is Dia's own father, Count Vioon. The wounded courier lying before them is one of the Count's soldiers, who has risked his life to deliver the plea. However, Cien reveals that Dia's father's true request is not the assassination of his daughter, but instead is a staged death of his daughter, so she could be saved and removed from the kingdom for good. The Count has realized that even if he stopped his kingdom's rebellion, the kingdom will continue sending armies until his town is burned to the ground, as they will not rest until the Vioon line is erased. Determined to save his beloved daughter, the Count knew that his only hope lies with the family of assassins. Luke questions why Cien has accepted such a mission when their clan's allegiance lies with the kingdom, and Cien answers simply that he owes Vioon a personal debt. He adds that if Luke refuses, he himself will go and save Dia, but he knows that with his limited mana, he won't make it in time. Luke weighs the consequences carefully, and after remembering how he was once merely an emotional tool, he refuses to repeat the same mistake. In the end, love wins, and he accepts the mission, even after knowing that he is betraying his kingdom. Cien praises him for bending his principles to save the woman he loves, and reveals that he once did the same. Luke is surprised, as all his life, he known his father as a man of principle. Cien then reveals that the single time he did it was for his mother, Esri, who he reveals is also part of the Vioon family, meaning that in truth, Dia is Luke's cousin. Then, Luke prepares to go to Vioon territory, which is hundreds of kilometers away. However, Tarte asks to come with him, and even though she knows that her mana won't reach their destination, she wants to help carry him and save his mana as much as possible. Using the wind magic Luke taught her, she pulls him behind her, carrying him with speed on par with the Flash. Luke is amazed to see just how far she's willing to go for him, but is worried by how much it's taking a toll on her. However, Tarte shows no sign of caring about the burden she has to carry, as all she desires is to be of use to him. From the beginning, she has understood that Luke has taken her in because of her power and ability to use mana. However, she also knows that he saved her life and has granted her a future she would never have had otherwise. For that reason, she doesn't hesitate to tell herself that her life belongs to him. As they speed onward, rain begins to fall in sheets. Luke calls out for her to stop and preserve her strength, but she refuses and presses on. She does not slow even as exhaustion overtakes her, and it's only when her mana is spent that she stops, the backlash throwing her backward. Luke catches her before she strikes the ground, thanking her for carrying him so far. Tarte asks him to promise her that whatever happens, he must return with Dia alive, and like promises that he will. He then sets off alone towards Vioon, and the instant he vanishes from sight, Tarte breaks down in tears, as despite everything, she is in love with him, and it burns her from the inside to know that his heart belongs solely to Dia. Hours later, Luke reaches the destination and pauses to assess the battlefield. He counts that the royal army numbers roughly 1,500, while Vioon's defenders have scarcely 200. He sees that the attackers also possess far more mages, but oddly, they have not managed to get into the town. Joining the fight, Luke relocates to a concealed vantage point and assembles his rifle. One by one, he begins eliminating the royal magic users, and they starts panicking. Unknown to them, Dia herself has been firing from the castle, so the sudden appearance of a second unseen marksman bamboozles them. Luke makes it more chaotic by yeeting mana-charged far stones into their formations, giving them a taste of what grenades are like. Seizing the moment, Vioon forces charge at the royal army, and a full battle erupts across the field. Amid the turmoil, Luke slips toward the castle perimeter, and seeing a corpse there gives him an idea. Using his mystic eyes, he traces the safest path through the chaos toward Dia's chamber. At last, he reaches the door and unlocks it quietly. The moment Dia sees the man she loves, she runs straight into his arms, happy that he came back. Noticing how tightly Luke and Dia cling to each other, the Count steps forward with a relieved smile and says he's glad his daughter will be in good hands. He explains that his own soldiers locked them in the chamber after realizing he was close to surrendering to the royal army, and Luke asks what he plans to do now that a chance has come. The Count says he'll ride onto the battlefield and draw all attention to himself, since he's the one the enemy wants most. Then once his allies withdraw safely, he'll slip away and go into hiding until he can strike back someday. Luke agrees with the plan and adds his part that he'll set the room on fire and stage it so it looks like Dia, driven by despair, took her own life. To sell it, he drags in a dead soldier to serve as a burned double, and the Count praises his genius idea. Luke then tells Dia to open the window toward the battlefield and shout that she will never belong to anyone. She steps up to do it, but just as she's about to scream it out, Luke's instincts scream danger, the same feeling he had in his past life when he was betrayed. Trusting it, he activates his mystic eyes and scans below. There, he spots the prophesied hero, Satanta Magnus, holding the divine weapon Gabolg. The moment Luke understands what he's about to do, his pulse jumps. Satanta throws the spear, and it tears through everything in its path as it flies toward the castle. In an instant, Luke throws up a spell to slow it and tackles Dia down. The spear slams into the chamber with devastating force, yet the weapon itself stays untouched. It rebounds and flies back to Satanta like Thor's hammer. Through his mystic sight, Luke sees Satanta overflowing with mana, and he quickly creates a cannon. He shouts for Dia and the Count to cover their ears and open their mouths, then fires straight at Satanta. The blast is enormous, but when the smoke clears, Satanta still stands, and despite the blood running down his face, the monster smiles and says that it's been a while since anything hurt him. Luke realizes he has an S-rank skill, Berserk, which boosts his magic and strength through rage like he's guts. Satanta calls out and offers Luke a choice to either watch everyone die, or face him in single combat like a knight. He vows that if Luke manages to win, he will withdraw and never attack the Vioon lands again. Dia begs Luke to refuse, but he stays silent, thinking fast. He knows Berserk plus his Gabolg makes Satanta nearly unbeatable, and in a fair one-on-one, Luke has no shot of winning. However, Luke chooses to accept the duel, and Dia cries out in horror. Seeing her in agony, Luke admits that he would lose in combat, but calmly tells her he'll survive. Summoning a bomb-like device, he says he's no knight or hero, but an assassin, and he'll end the battle like one. He then uses magic to send the bomb elsewhere, and asks the Count to come with him to meet Satanta, saying that he needs the Count to be present when Luke assassinates Satanta and ends the civil war. As they approach, Vioon's soldiers pull back to avoid the clash. Satanta's face lights up at the sight of a challenger, and he demands to know Luke's name. Luke answers that his name is Fairy Marconi to hide his real identity, and notices that Satanta's earlier wounds are already healed. Seeing this, he asks whether Satanta will truly withdraw if Luke wins, and Satanta swears on his mama's life that he will. With full confidence, Luca promises that Satanta won't live to see tomorrow, which makes the Berserker laugh in amusement. Then, Satanta orders his soldiers that if he loses, the army must honor his vow and retreat. He then tells Luke to begin, but Luke stalls the fight, asking Satanta to send all troops farther away so no one else is caught in his ultimate move. Seeing no issue, Satanta agrees, and the Count does the same, but not before wishing Luke good luck. Now, only the two of them, Luke draws his knife and presents a coin, saying that they'll start when it hits the ground. Satanta accepts, and as the coin starts to descend, they both prepare to gouge each other's eyes out. All the while the goddess watches in amusement from the heavens, seeing Luke's growth. But the moment it falls, the device Luke prepared earlier screams down from the sky like a falling star, exploding like the Fat Man in Japan. In his previous life, Luke knew of a super weapon called the Rod of Gods, and using the magic he learned in this world, he recreated the weapon of mass destruction and uses it to defeat the spear-wielding berserker. The explosion is cataclysmic, and the shockwave throws Luke through the air, forcing him to cushion the impact with magic, smashing into a ruined wall but surviving. Through fading vision, he feels sure that he won the fight, but he collapses. Then, Luke wakes up to Dia calling his name, and when she sees his eyes open, she throws herself onto him in relief. She thanks him for saving them and asks why he risked everything for a war that isn't his. Luke answers simply that he promised her that he would always come when she needed him the most, and hearing that, she promises that she will make it up to him. Looking around the battlefield, Lucas sees that there are no enemy survivors, so they can't fake her death now. Dia agrees, but neither seems bothered, and instead, Luke pulls her into a kiss, to which she happily returns. Days later, Luke returns home with Dia, while her father and followers leave the Vioon lands to seek safety elsewhere. In the assassin's family, they decide that Dia will be presented publicly as their daughter, considering that she resembles Esri. With her identity secured, Cien informs them that the hero has appeared in their kingdom, and Luke is stunned, finding out that his literal warhead was wasted on some bum on steroids who carries around a spear. He adds that with the hero emerging, it means the Demon King will soon follow, and he needs Luke to be on guard, considering it's their job as assassins to dispose of threats like them when needed. If you watch this anime recap until the end, comment down below Assassin Rizzler. And if you love anime recaps like this, watch this video.